The fastest way to solve a surface area problem on the GED is to use the formula sheet, because they'll give you the formulas for all of these shapes here. And then for surface area, we're interested for this cylindrical jar, same thing as a cylinder. If we look to the right, we'll notice a formula that begins with SA, and that's the one. Now this may look like a bunch of hieroglyphics, but basically we're going to type it into the calculator just like that. We're just going to change the letters to numbers. Now h is just the height, but that's given as 8, so we'll change h to 8. The r is the radius, but to find that we're going to use the diameter, because the diameter goes all the way across the jar. The radius is just half of that. Half of 6, the radius is 3. And now we're ready to go. So let's type it in, 2. The pi is on the left side there. That's saucy minx. And then they're all next to each other, so you're going to use multiplication here. Times the radius, which is 3, times the height, 8. Keep going, plus 2, times pi again, times the radius of 3. But this time it's squared, so we'll use that x squared button right there. Okay, enter. 66 pi. But none of the answers have a pi in them, so you could use the button right above enter. That'll convert it. Same thing as 207.3 for the surface area. We could just bump it up a little bit, call it good at 208. Now what does that tell us though? That's basically 208 of these little squares that'll fit perfectly around the outside. Keep it secret, keep it safe. A certain someone has told me that mint does not belong in chocolate. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. How much foil do we need to wrap this bar of chocolate? We're talking about wrapping the outside, so we're talking about surface area. The question is, what shape is this? We could think of it like a really flattened box, or in other words, a rectangular prism. Azkaban prism. So that's the formula we're going to use. We just need to know the length, the width, and the height. But lucky for us, those are given right there, so let's just copy those down. Okay, let's enter this guy in. So it's going to start with 2 times the length, which is 5, times the width, which is 3, plus 2 times the length again, times the height this time, 0.2, plus 2 times the width, 3, times the height, 0.2. You may feel like you're going crazy typing that in, but just take your time, you got it. That gets us 33.2, and that is the surface area. In other words, it takes 33.2 of these little squares of foil to fit perfectly around the outside. Tin foil if you're born before 1950, aluminum foil if you're born after. In this example, we want to know how many garnishes, not parnishes, we can get from one orange. Suppose that this little guy has an area of 2 square inches. If the orange has a diameter of 3.4 inches, then how many garnishes can we make from it? We know we want the peel, or the outside of it. In other words, the surface area. But the question is, what shape is this? Any ball is the same thing as a sphere. So there we go. But we need to know the radius, so let's go ahead and label. They give us the diameter, so let's add that in. That goes all the way across. If you're given the diameter, you want to find the radius, you can always divide by 2. 3.4 divided by 2 gives us 1.7. That is the radius, so that is what we're going to change that r to. Let's do it. Okay, let's clear. We got 4 pi times 1.7 squared. Enter. 36.3. Now we might be tempted to choose D there, but keep in mind that that's how much orange peel we have for the full orange. We want to find out how many of these garnishes we can make. In other words, How many times can 2 go into 36? So we could divide by 2, and that'll give us 18. That is how many garnishes we could get from one orange. So, see you there. Okay, one last example. Suppose we came up with a new board game here, and it comes in an octagonal prism box. If the area of the top is 84, the height is 5, and then the width is 4, then what is the total surface area needed to make this thing? The problem is, if you look up octagonal prism in the formula sheet, it's not going to be there. So we need a different approach. One way to find surface area is you could always break this up into all of the shapes one at a time. So let's do it. We know we have 2 octagons for the top and the bottom, but they give us the area, so that's 84 square inches. Then we have all the sides, but those are just a bunch of rectangles. Let's draw that out. From there, let's multiply that area by 2 since we have 2 of those. That gets us 168. Then let's find the area for the side. We'll just do 5 times 4, that'll give us 20. And then we have 8 of those. 8 times 20, we get 160. Finally, to combine to get the total surface area, we'll just add 168 plus 160, and that'll get us 328. So that is how you could find the surface area if no formula is provided. So between that or the ones where you have the formula, you should be in great shape for any surface area here. Good luck, you got these. We'll see you in the next video. Toodles.